I really want to get into the nitty gritty of the
Yeah,
of the Red Hat
we'll
stuff,
talk about the Red Hat stuff. I know I keep sending you different directions. We'll talk about it.
but because I have a different point of view
Mm-hmm.
than a lot of people. My point of view is they are correct to do what they are doing
Mm-hmm.
to a certain degree. The way they are doing it is a little bit questionable. I'm not talking about the way they're doing it. I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking about the action itself.
Okay.
Monetizing or putting support and some of the server code behind the paywall, sort of a paywall. It's not really 100% paywall. It's a weird one. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know what to call it.
Well, there
But
is the free developer license, so you can still access the code. What they are
yeah,
restricting is the distribution of the code through the use of that
yeah.
license.
But a lot of distributions owe a lot to Red Hat.
Mm-hmm.
Without Red Hat, for example, desktop environments wouldn't have existed. They created the XDG portals. They created the half
I
everything.
wouldn't say they wouldn't exist. They wouldn't exist in the state they're
Is it
in.
in the state they're in? I should have phrased
GNOME
it better.
definitely wouldn't be like as functional as it is today without Red Hat.
Yeah, they owe a lot to Red Hat. And on the desktop front, desktop environment front, and end user, like regular user,
Mm-hmm.
from their perspective, they're not going to be affected. Why are they yelling and screaming with pitchforks and everything? If they're just yelling at the way Red Hat is going about it, I'm okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of them. They're just doing it for the sake of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
They just want to spread hate and okay, it's affecting the free open source world in a certain the ideology in a
Mm-hmm.
certain way, but it's not really affecting it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really causing desktop environments to die. It's not causing applications to die. It's not causing anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's just on the server front, yes, but we're not talking about the server front. The server front is for the server people, for
Mm-hmm.
the people who got, and in this on the server front, they have money, so they can afford to pay a license. So okay, they don't want to, but that's up to them.
Mm-hmm.
Why should we hate for the server people? It's not affecting us in the end. Why
Mm-hmm.
should we hate something that's not affecting us? That's my whole argument.
Well, I think one part you're forgetting about is a lot of people in the desktop space are also people in the server space as well. Like there is definitely that overlap between those people. So there is definitely a lot of people who are being directly affected by this. Also, when we are talking about licenses, when we're talking like, a big company, like a Google, for example, like if they have to pay some license fees, it doesn't matter, whatever. They're going to make their own thing anyway. I think they have an internal version of Ubuntu. That was a bad example. Take like some mid-tier company, they have like, 100 employees, they have to pay for a license. Like that, makes sense. They can afford it. But there are a lot of cases where you have like educational usage, you have more
Yeah.
small scale companies that are just starting up where maybe they can't actually afford those license fees, but they can still get value out of the system that's been provided here. Now, you could say, well, maybe they should just go and use Debian, but up until a couple of years ago, you had CentOS available, and then up until very recently, you also had Alma Linux and Rocky Linux operating as a spiritual successor of what CentOS was. Do they need to be on something that is one-to-one compatible with RHEL? That's something I can't say. That's something that is dependent on their specific business case. Maybe a lot of these systems would be perfectly fine on CentOS Stream or some other distro out there. I think the major issue comes down to the fact that it seems really disingenuous from Red Hat that they cannot keep providing, they couldn't keep providing CentOS, they can't keep providing to Alma Linux and Rocky Linux in the same form they've been doing because it's not sustainable. Where since the beginning of the company, they have operated under this model and they've become this massively successful business. It's just out of nowhere, all of a sudden, that this model is just now no longer sustainable. And that, I think, is where people get a little bit weird about it and think, there's clearly like more to it than just like, oh, it's not sustainable now. Like that's not what's happening. Like you've been successful up until now, so like
the way I
at least
look
be
at
honest
it is,
about it.
the way I look at it is they've been giving when it comes to desktop and end user stuff uh, without asking in return, and other distributions making money off of their backs. It's a similar situation I suffered on Zero Linux, but this is nor here nor there. But they're making money off of Red Hat's backs, and Red Hat was like, "We need to put an end to this." They're taking bug for bug copies of our code, and they're making money off of it. We need to start doing something about it. We need to limit that kind of behavior. So maybe they studied and they did research, they did some thinking and whatever, and then they saw no other way to do it but to put a donation, or I mean a paywall thing in front of it to stop people making money off of their backs. The way they went about it, yes, is a kind of weird, kind of janky, kind of not user friendly. Just one day they just told people, "Hey, it's not sustainable." Yes, I agree.
I think the other big thing with that, sorry for cutting you off. I think the other big thing is that they're just saying we're stopping like now. It's not like you have until the next version. You have until this day. It's like we're done now. Go away. Like that's, I think, the really big thing. Same with what happened with CentOS when they pulled everything like out from under CentOS. Like, people were in the middle of migrating systems at that point. Like, if you give people a deprecation period, which Red Hat is generally really good with, like I think Xorg is marked for deprecation in Red Hat. And I think the deprecation date is like 2025 or something ridiculous. Like, that gives people a lot of time to work out what they're going to do, move systems around, maybe start paying for a license or migrate to something else. But when you just say out of the blue, hey, Alma Linux, Rocky Linux, all the people that are using it, no, stop. Like, they're allowed to do that. Don't get me wrong. They are absolutely allowed to do it.
Not that way. But not that way. They have to give... Everything has a certain period. Like, when you quit your job, you have to give a 30-day prior notice.